All right.
Okay.
Science. Sometimes it takes a while to figure things out.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
All
almost fitting that it would happen on this podcast in particular.
Specifically this one.
Because you never know what you have until it's gone. And Senku taught us that there are a lot of things we take for granted.
Right.
Yep.
Right. But as it is something that required a little bit of testing out here and there.
Indeed.
It is
Scientific
apropos that this
Mm-hmm.
would be where we get things. So hello everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
I believe this is podcast number 141.
Yes, 141. And not only that, guys, this is actually the first podcast we are doing, the first stream we're doing.
Yep.
In the new place.
That's right.
And
everything's
hello.
all crazy and moved over and whatnot. But yeah, here
oh
we
my
are.
god, it was quite the ordeal just getting internet to work.
Yep.
Just more internet in general was something that was like a whole thing indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, and I know you might be thinking, wait a minute, so background Chan is still the same. Like, is that, maybe you were hoping that we would get a peek behind the curtain? No. Background Chan has been loyal these many years.
Yes. There is a possibility of background Chan not being here forever, though.
Crazy to think about, I know.
Because we actually have this thing called Spacer.
Yeah.
Not the kind where Byakuya went to.
Right.
But
different kind of space.
Spacer. We actually have the capacity to do this.
It's great.
Look at me, I'm leaving the frame.
Yep.
And I'm not hitting all kinds of crap over here.
You would not believe the kind of things that Background Chan was shielding your virgin eyes from all of these years. It would astonish you.
It really would. And
make you blush.
Don't worry, I have pictures. I have specific things that will be, archived for potential future use. We'll see. We'll see.
But yes, good morning, world.
Ohio, Sakai, good morning, world. Good morning, world. New post office address or the same. I think we'll be able to get away with, for now, keeping it the same, but we will have to switch it up.
Yeah, we will have to switch it eventually. So stay posted for that. So before we get too far into this podcast here, we got to give a shout out to one of our VIP patrons, a long-standing supporter, an absolute legend of not only the YouTube channel, the Patreon, the Discord, but also Twitch. Ryan H. Thank you so much for the support all these years. Thank you so much for all the help you've given with people with packages, for instance. Yes, and the chaddest of chads.
Yeah, you're an absolute chad lad, and we're blessed to know you, dude. So thank you very much for all the support. It means a lot.
Yeah. But Dr. Stone,
we have a couple follows and subs to get through here, so let's do that really quick. We have Grain of Salt, Gen Cross, Myth Allion, Darren Sarius, Rendrock TW, Unlisted U, Ashraf Magi, Oblivion Ray, Single Female. Thank you all so much for the follows.
Yes.
And General S.E. Patton with the 21 months of Tier 1 Twitch sub. I am here for Dr. Stone. Senku built a radio in a village with a pile of natural resources.
Yep, a big old pile of natural resources.
It's true.
Oh, boy.
To be fair, though, it wasn't just Senku.
Audio's a bit low?
Audio is a bit low. That is possible. I can fix that.
Get ready, everybody.
Okay, how is that? Is that quite a bit better?
Testu,
indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Darren is perfectly fine. Okay, for sure.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Tiny bit more. I want to be careful though, because we are now in a little bit better. Bigger of a room.
Right.
A studio now officially that we can call for that. Like because like this whole place that we are in here will be only channel stuff. So
like
that in of itself is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But if anything, I don't want to turn the volume up too crazy high, so I think we'll cap it right at about there.
Yeah.
That's at about as loud as we're going to go. But yeah, let me know if this is actually just really quiet.
Seems pretty good.
Like, as far as everything that I'm seeing here, it just seems it seems like it's fair audio, but I can't tell if it's too
okay.
too loud. If anything, we won't hold back from talking with bravado,
yes,
and
indeed.
Compelling passion.
Because there's definitely a lot of that in Dr. Stone. Wait, no, wrong show. Dr. Stone definitely has some wonderful speeches. But like,
indeed,
I gotta say, one of the things that really I loved about Senku, you know, and with him being the main character of the show and everything, was that he didn't do too much bravado. Like, he had some of it at certain points where he would be like, I'm 10 billion% sure. And there was a lot more of it like in the earlier parts of the show. But even though he had his crazy hair and everything, he was just a dude that was passionate about science.
He was a dude, and we got to see in a lot of ways not only his world turned upside down, but we got to see him focus on going back to the things that he found to be his passion for life. But when he was alone, in some ways the show was a different show than when we brought in all the other members of the eventual Kingdom of Science. I want to go out on a limb here and say it was essential for the show to change when that happened. And I've heard tons of things from people saying that it was something to do with regards to how to market the story for the Shonen Jump audience and stuff like that. But I want to go out on a limb and say, actually, the really thematic important thing was that Senku had people who were going to express raw, innocent wonder at the wondrous things he was doing that he didn't have as much, you know, because it's really just us as the audience. But then also Taiju and Yuzuriha, you know, that split with them and Senku,
that was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
That was a real big deal.
But once they split, then who's going to, you know, get this moment of inspiration or excitement or passion, if you will, because of what Senku does?
I'm really curious to see, like, not that, you know, I would ever get this look really, but if I were to get this look sort of behind the curtain, as far as like, because I'm always interested in like the dynamic between the writer and the editor, and then editor and like the publishing company and stuff, you know, because there were certain things where it seemed like, this is what they sort of have to have in here in order to make it be, you know, generally appealing, right? Or just so that there's simple conflict, right? Tsukasa, right? You need to have a forcing function, you know? So there you go, right? Straightforward, you know, it does the job. But then there's the things where it's like let's all just look at this light bulb, right? And that I'm not sure if like, but I wonder, was that something where the editor was like, let's have this focusing moment or whatever, where, you know, the audience along with the characters in the show can kind of just be in awe of science together in the way that like the author clearly is and Senku clearly is, you know, because it can be hard to communicate that sometimes.
When you're communicating that, you need not only just the initial main character, but you need that cast of characters as well. And I think that really Dr. Stone, while its concept is what will bring you to the anime, in that, yes, they did a good job in the story, the creator did, of selling us on the idea of this story's premise, the world, if you will. But the reason why I think we all stayed, and the reason why I think we all got into the story by the point of the season 1 finale, you know, ending and stuff, is because of the heart behind it. There are a couple things in this anime that stand out as being, I would say, tricky in order to deliver. One is the inordinate amount of exposition actually in the anime, because there's an educational kind of, you know, bent to this.
And like, because
the whole idea of going into a different place, right? Whether it's a different world or a different subject material like haiku with volleyball or like musical anime and things like that, where you want or Nen in Hunter x Hunter, where you want the audience to be able to appreciate the complexities and the nuances of what you're going through, right?
Yep.
They need to be on the same page as you. And that can be a lot of stuff that you need to kind of explain to them, and yet you don't want to have it drag on and become uninteresting, especially in something where it's all about the wonder and the passion surrounding something.
Totally.
Surrounding something we take for granted.
Yep.
So having those characters that don't know what's going on, one, is important, and two, easy given the setting, right? Because you're in this stone world. And that's why I think splitting from Yuzuriha and Taiju was such a good idea.
Yes.
Because they wouldn't have that same wonder that all the villagers would have, because they grew up with
They've grown up with Senku.
They're and they grew up with science.
Well, not only yes, but you can still have Gen, you can still have Isagari. Asagiri. Thank you. Asagiri Gen. He knows all about science. But in some ways, I would say that the difference is the innocence. So Asagiri Gen freaks out when he thinks about the fact that he's going to make a cola.
Yeah.
Now, the difference is his passion in some ways might be actually higher than the villagers because he has all this emotional attachment and connection. But that's experience talking. Meaning that he's not going to look at it in a way that is different from the way we as the audience would look at it.
Right.
So when Chrome or Suika or even the best craftsman.
Yeah. I always forget his name.
I always forget his name as well. I'll put up our notes here so we actually have this all ready to go because we were hustling to make sure that the problems
got figured out.
Yeah, I didn't put up everything with regards to our notes here. Okay, here we go.
Where is it?
Kaseki.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Kaseki. All right.
Good old Kaseki.
We got that here. That's going to be helpful. Yeah. Okay. So all these characters that are going to have these slightly different perspectives on the excitement of science, even though it is going to be general positive, whoa, over dramatic anime reactions, which we all, love, of course.
Yeah.
But having it from the standpoint of we have no grid or experience with this, so we're not necessarily excited about the exposition or explanation about it. We're going to be just excited about the fact that we're opening up our world to something more.
Right.
It doesn't matter the form it comes in. It's just the fact that we're getting the opportunity to look upon something new with wonder.
Right. So I think I have a good way of explaining why, for me personally, I really am glad that Taiju and Yuzuriha split off. They're too earnest.
Sure.
So they're so earnest that they believe in Senku so much that they would not be surprised by any of the stuff that Senku does. They also have the past with him, so they know he's really scientifically inclined, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the case of Asagiri Gen, he understands how complicated all the stuff is, right? And he's also a mentalist, so he's constantly thinking about just stuff, Yeah. But he didn't know Senku, so there's the surprise of that Senku exists, right? But he also spent a bunch of time with Tsukasa and them, so he's gonna be not totally jaded, but a little bit more jaded. And then we get to see how that jaded aspect of himself from seeing the Tsukasa Empire and everything gets undone, right?
Yeah.
By the wonder of science. Because I feel like Asagiri Gen and the village put together are kind of the sum total of the audience. Because we know about all the science stuff, right? It's not magic to us, and yet we don't know science for the most part. Like the average viewer isn't going to know the stuff that Senku's talking about. So it's still impressive when he's able to explain his way through it.
Yes.
But then at the same time, we've been taking it for granted. And then there's the innocence, like you were saying, of the villagers, where they're seeing it for the first time, which is probably what the experience was for Senku or the author when they started to get introduced to science, and it was this wondrous thing for them. So the combination of the village and Asagiri Gen is just, I love it. It's amazing.
Disquieting. Usually the podcasts go for about 90 minutes, so we'll probably be going for another 60 to 70 minutes.
Yep.
It depends really on
how much chat interaction drives the discussion, because it can go a bit longer sometimes. But we love stories primarily because it invokes, or evokes is a better word, the passion that we already had for stories. If a story for some reason kills some aspect of our passion for stories, that's almost in some ways more rare of a show that actually like drives our passion for stories. So Dr. Stone, in its unique kind of specific way that it does the whole format of a protagonist fighting the environment and in some ways a direct antagonist, very classic structure. But then we bring them into a conflict where there's some obscene hurdle.
Right.
And the obscene hurdle is one that we believe because of the first few episodes.
Yep.
But rather quickly, we see that actually, once our main character breaks things down into individual components, which is what I'm going to talk about, the genius of the roadmap idea.
Oh, yeah.
It's another way of showing exposition.
Sure.
Is that we go, oh, it's actually not that complicated.
Yeah.
The hurdle is just something that's going to take time.
Right.
So if the conflict doesn't focus around actually if we're going to solve the hurdle, but it's about what thing will we deep dive into in order to spend time focusing on overcoming the hurdle, we then will basically make a value call of how interested am I in seeing that deep dive.
Yep.
And then the characters in the cast come along and go, we are so interested in seeing this deep dive. And then that's just with the premise of the fantastical elements. But how excited were you to just see the process of how cola is made?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was
like, we don't know these things. Most of us don't know how our modern world works. We just kind of, just accept it. Yeah, it works,
right. Well, that's the thing. We accept it. We basically determine in our minds that the amount of effort it would take to understand how the stuff works it'd be more effort than it's worth, right?
Right.
So the roadmap, for instance, takes it and it simplifies it. And then it's just, okay, we need to work on this one thing right in front of us. We need to figure out how to get, this acid or whatever, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And then they go deep into that, spend a really good amount of time on it.
Yep.
They don't do that on all of the components of the roadmap equally. They just do that on the more of the interesting ones, the complicated ones.
Right.
But by doing that, if world building tips for writing, by the way, you don't have to go broad if you go like super specific and deep. Then you basically, the audience will assume that that even if you don't see it, the rest of that kind of stuff is happening for all of the other things, right?
Yeah.
So we, go to the lake with all the acid and everything, and we have those crazy moments. And then when it's like, oh yeah, we also need beeswax or something, or something, Senku might give a little explanation of like, oh yeah, we get it from this thing, but you don't have to see a whole bunch of dedicated effort to it, because we know that, okay, yeah, they're
eventually going to get that.
They're eventually going to get there, right? Senku made it simple. It makes Senku, if anything, seem less awesome, and makes science itself seem more awesome, because it's not about Senku being able to like big brain, like do everything in his head or whatever, even though he kind of can.
Yep.
It's that, no, yeah, you could do this too, right? Because and that's what's great, because then it's Senku kind of more about teaching everyone else than about just doing the awesome things on his own.
Right, which is the genius of the roadmap specifically. One of the things that was fascinating with the shift, again, I still think this all could be tied back to the fact that they shifted and changed literally the entire show by splitting Taiju Yuzuriha from Senku, was that Senku was coming across to me as a little bit of the big brain character where it doesn't focus on glorifying the science, it glorifies the protagonist.
Sure.
Which I think might be because it's more acceptable for, this was the marketing thing, acceptable for the, audience to be like, I feel so wonderfully smart, and that I can feel attached to Senku overcoming these things there. So when the show shifts and it becomes about, no, it's not something that's done in the background where you don't know the process. We show you straight up these are the steps. These are the things that we need. And you, in your mind, go, that's it?
Right.
Like immediately when you see it, you go, wait, what? Like we're gonna get a cell phone? Now, it's not technically a cellular smartphone,
but it's still
specific thing.
It's still a phone from only these things. How in the bloody hell are they gonna do that? Like, now for each one of those, you might be able to break it down a little bit more. Like, with the vacuum tubes, those were kind of complicated, you know?
Sure.
If not for Kaseki, it never would have happened.
That's very true. Yeah.
But it's a group effort. It's not just Senku. It's everybody pitching in, you know? If Chrome hadn't, like, been such a science nerd and found all the rocks and
acquired all the minerals and stuff.
If Suika hadn't been able to go to places and get things, I don't know, but you know,
well, that's one of the things that the show starts to push towards the latter, I would say, third of the show. Do you remember when our discussions in general completely shifted once we showed the backstory with the astronauts in Byakuya?
Oh yeah,
because what they then focused on there was not how wonderful science was, but how wonderful humanity is.
Right.
And this is where I think Dr. Stone went from being a really good show to a great show. Now, I want to talk about themes here that are really tough to handle when your side characters are there primarily to fulfill a kind of a notch or a role in the plot and then react upon the successes and failures of the plot conflict overall. If that's where your cast primarily lies in, you can get into a good formula and everything feels I would say you get really attached to the overall plot of the story, especially if the characters are fun and it's just kind of good anime stuff. But by going into the background and showing how humanity survived to be able to set the stage for what Senku was doing that we didn't even know we were taking for granted in the moment, in the beginning of the story, you bring up the concept that the reason why science is so fascinating is not because of what it is localized in the box of the scientific method. It's that every human being, in some small measure, you could argue that I'm, hyper generalizing and stuff here, but every human being in some ways contributed to science. Some way more than others, definitely. Sure. But the idea that history and the people in it, we all have built slowly upon each other's efforts to create the experience that we have today.
Well,
and that's just incredible if you think about it in just the scope of it.
And even outside of science, this is one of the reasons why I think that whole thing you were talking about is so powerful. Science is one thing, right? But let's say you don't really like science,
totally.
Right? Now, in this setting that we're put into, it's something where, well, no, you're forced to appreciate, or at the very least, remember fondly, yes, science, that would be very helpful right now.
Right, yeah.
But science is just a concrete way to represent the iterative progression of the human race. Right? And whether, when you were saying that like each person has contributed to science in some way, it was kind of like you were saying that each person has contributed to the progression of the human race as a whole. Right? Even if some of them aren't necessarily progressing in the same direction as others, not even in the same area, but the same direction.
Or even in destructive directions.
Right, exactly. Tsukasa, I would say, is a bit more negative direction for humanity to progress, in the case of the story. But that is also something that
might even be essential in some ways.
Might even be essential because he's essentially he's that predator out there that forces
he's
humanity.
The one that keeps them on time.
Exactly.
And keeps things moving along.
Like they probably would be making progress a lot slower if he wasn't threatening to come in and kill them all the time, right? So that's and then like in other areas, like let's say it's not science, right? Let's say it's food or art or whatever, right? Things that is very important to the human race, right? Maybe not as inherently, concretely, obviously important as something like science, but there are still things that help, right? And those even if we don't necessarily see the immediate effect of the things that we do, if you zoom out, you can see, you know, this story of humanity, and we all play a part in that, even if we're not all Senkus, right?
Absolutely. And that was something that they did throughout the show, was that the efforts of one person doing this small innocuous thing had a rippling set of chain reaction, like causal relationships that led to other things being possible, or even just simpler or easier.
Sure.
So there were multiple times when that happened. There was the multiplicative effect of, as more and more people experienced the wonder of science, they became more interested in joining forces and linking arms together. And that was, I would say, the progression shown in the backstory stuff and the present day kind of linking in parallel to show that, yes, all of humanity made it possible for those astronauts to go to that space station. They all came from different walks of life, different countries, different backgrounds and all that to be able to make that possibility. But it was one of them specifically having this crazy idea of, okay, what if we had a way to pass on what we knew in a method that would be, you know, eternally able to stay there for those that eventually find some way to figure this whole thing out? Because the human race could have just been ended if Senku never woke up, basically.
Right. Yeah, there are tons of things that if they
could
hadn't happened, that could have happened, like even down to, you know, the little tournament, you know, to like figure out who's going to be the next chieftain, right?
I mean, a bad disease could have ran through.
Sure. That too, definitely. Yeah, if that disease had, say, not just been confined to Rudy, but had like taken the whole village, you know, and Senku had just woken up like, I don't know, a year later,
100 years later or something.
Or whatever. Right. Like,
who knows?
Could have all been different.
Yep.
Could have all been different. But even if Magma just became the chieftain,
sure.
What would have happened if Chrome had, say, one, not been into science? Maybe he hadn't met Senku. Maybe they didn't get along. Maybe whatever, right?
Yep.
Maybe Senku was to, what if he had been like a very like sort of arrogant, proud person, and he had been like, nah, Chrome, you're actually stupid. I've got all the knowledge right here in my noggin. You know, I don't need any help. What if the people in the village had, you know, made it so that Chrome couldn't actually do his little exploration things and stuff that didn't really seem to contribute in any meaningful way to the village? Like, all of those things would have caused something to change that would have made it so that it wouldn't have worked. And like,
was glass the most important invention of Dr. Stone? It was one of the most important ones. Yeah, it provided them the capacity to do almost all their testing on materials in the lab. So
if they, oh man,
it's
what material would have been the most valuable?
It's one of those things where it's really exciting to think about Dr. Stone being this thing where you look at it in retrospect and you could see it as a bunch of sequential events that needed to happen in order for the plot to reach the end point. But that's kind of a boring way of looking at any story that exists, possibly. But if you think about the themes and what they're trying to bring about in the message there, that humanity as a whole is a bunch of interconnected parts working together. We don't know why it works all the time, but it works for the most part.
Yeah, there might even be some points where it seems like we're very actively working against each other. But you know, the wheels keep turning. Mother Nature kind of tends to win out in the end. And, you know, we are a part of Mother Nature. That's one of the crazy things.
Yeah, and all this leads to, I just loved the two moments specifically with, I keep forgetting her name, but the Ruri's descendant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the idol singer.
Right.
The moments where they basically connected humanity across time and space with the, you know, the song and stuff. But there's something unifying, and I would say wholesome is almost too small scale of a word for this, because it feels more intimate. There's something
grand about the idea of humanity coming together over something even as basic as survival.
Yep.
Like, so maybe it was the time in which we watched Dr. Stone. Maybe it was just the combination of a couple specific moods that hit us there. But I really feel like this was what made Dr. Stone go from being like a really cool, fun concept of a show with some funky, cool execution angles on it, to being a show that was like a bit moving, like at a deep level. Yeah.
So you know where that started for me?
Did I say descendant? I meant to say ancestor. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe I didn't catch that.
Lillian. Okay, that's right.
But where that started for me, because the whole bit with Senku's dad, backstory and all that stuff, and the astronauts and everything, that was absolutely wonderful, right? Definitely one of my favorite parts of the show. But I feel like it started way before then for me. Like there even before the light bulb moment. Because the light bulb moment, that was sort of like a definite pivotal point of like, this show has changed and gone down a certain direction and it's never really going to go back, right?
Yeah.
But when we saw Senku's backstory, in that moment, I can't remember exactly what episode it was. I think it was
like episode
like 4 or 5 or something.
I think it was 5. Yeah.
Where he had basically, I think he had been wounded by Tsukasa or something like that. But we got to see
episode 4.
Okay, yeah, episode 4, and we got to see Byakuya being best dad before Byakuya even got the focus, right? And just seeing the ways that he basically supported Senku and helped him, pursue his passion of science, right? All of those, all that stuff that he got Senku, that wasn't cheap. Like that is not the kind of thing that he just would have done casually, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of parents probably wouldn't go that far to, help their kid necessarily.
Yeah.
But the idea that he did that, I feel like that was the first real like seeds being laid of that main theme of the story.
Right.
Because with a parent and a child, that's the most sort of fundamental, easy to grapple
relationship.
Relationship of basically
because everyone's
iterative improvement, right? Your ceiling becomes their floor.
Right. Everyone's not necessarily experienced that, but they've seen maybe some aspect of that. Because even if it was just in fiction where you saw a good, parent, child relationship and stuff, like who hasn't cried a little bit when Mufasa sacrifices himself for Simba, Like there's this aspect of that feels fundamental and I don't know, dynamic. Not dynamic, but integral. That's the word I'm looking for.
Well, and one of the reasons I think it is because that's not just a human thing. That's a nature thing.
It is a nature
Whether you're
thing.
Talking about plants or animals or whatever, right? Yep. The idea of just life itself, there being some iterative improvement. Even though the show is called Dr. Stone, it's all about the things that aren't stone, right?
Sure.
And them,
nice line.
And the way that basically just keeps going. That's part of the grinding, never stopping wheels of Mother Nature, And then we get to see that then not just for life as a whole, but specifically with humanity, and then specifically with science. Awesome. And then all the stuff that comes after that, it has this sense of rightness in the story, right? If there was some other story where, I don't know, like let's say it's not Dr. Stone or whatever, let's say it's like some action medieval story or whatever, and they spend an episode, the one with Balsa. Morabito. In Morabito, there was an episode where they spent almost the entire episode showing this blacksmith talking about like making weapons and a sword that he made and things like that. It was a wonderful episode. I enjoyed it a lot. Within the grander narrative of the story, it didn't really seem to fit in my mind because how is it relevant, But it was still a wonderful episode. Dr. Stone is basically that, but for the whole show, right? And it's set up in that episode for starting with Byakuya, taking care of Senku and fostering this love of science, and then more and more in way more obvious ways later as the show goes on, with things like the light bulb and the Byakuya's backstory and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
when we talk about Dr. Stone and basically the power of wonder as kind of the catchy title for this podcast here, we are trying to get at the nature of what was the thing that brought us not just into the show, but into the moments of the show where we kind of just wanted to sit back and go, oh, this is what we're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe everyone's going to get something slightly different from it. And I think that's important. But when those moments happen, and there's, I would say, about a good 5 or 6 of them, it's usually some achievement has been made with regards to their roadmap, science, or what have you, or there's some kind of display of humanity put out there for us to see. And there's something really powerful in it, because I've talked with a couple people about Dr. Stone with their favorite moments in the story and stuff, and people keep bringing up these moments that are peppered throughout the show, but they don't bring up the same reason why it's important to them. So I think that what makes a good story, what makes at least for me, a story that I enjoy is rewatchability and the capacity to then discuss it, basically.
Sure.
So there's the capacity to discuss a thing is an umbrella for a whole bunch of other things.
And rewatchability
again as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But one of the things I think with Dr. Stone is that you are not going to necessarily see the same thing in that glazed eyes, wondrous kind of far off stare when you see them looking at the light bulb piercing the darkness of the sky at night, and you're like, oh, because you might just be wowed by the fact that they did it.
Right. Because because it's just a beautiful moment, right? There's what it means in the story and things like that, and the fact that, yes, because Senku did this thing, that'll make the villagers more willing to help him out with the stuff that needs to be made and whatnot. But one of the reasons why I think it's really important, that beyond just the obvious ones of why it wasn't just let's build a bunch of weapons to beat Tsukasa, right? Is because that's something where the science is then being used for a very technical reason, right? And in a lot of ways, they were, addressing very specific issues with the things that they were making. The sulfa drug, right, to cure Ruri, right? That's a very straightforward, we need this stuff. We need soap. We need, all of these things to help us survive. But it didn't stop there. It went into the areas of what are those things that would just really make life a lot better. It's not necessarily a matter of survival, but that'd be great if we had it. What if we had ramen? What if we had cotton candy? What if we had copper furnaces in the homes?
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool. And I feel like the light bulb is a representation of that, because on the one hand, yes, electricity. Oh my God, like that's a whole new age that they're going into with that, right? And yet, it could also just be a beautiful moment, right? And that all the people in the village watching, just like potentially everyone in the audience watching, can just be like, wow, this is beautiful. Science did that. We can make beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
That certainly seems to make, life a lot more meaningful than if we were just, say, hunter-gatherers until we die at 40 from some infection or something like that, right? Like,
sure.
And I think that's something that can resonate, or at least it resonated a lot with me watching it, because it's very easy for all the crazy stuff that we have now in our day and age to make life become sort of monotonous and uninteresting, where it's just like, all right, we're here, it's a lot easier to take care of ourselves, and we don't need to do all the crazy things to survive that they have to do back then necessarily, but why are we here? What are we gonna do?
And I love how you always bring this topic up specifically when we do these discussions, because one of the things that the show tackles specifically with that is that there's a lot of people in the show that we see them have a moment where they have their specific kind of shtick as a character, but they come to Senku and they're like, hey, I'd like to have some meaningful way to contribute. How can I do that? And then it takes Senku, and probably a couple of the other characters as well, if I look back at the show, to kind of go and creatively think up, I got it. I got it. Here you go. Here's your way that you're going to do this. And they're constantly busying themselves with these specific ways in which they can contribute. Like, think about the fact that, like, Suika kites, like, that many of Tsukasa's guys. Like, Suika's PvP skills are, like,
they're pretty high up there. Yeah.
She, like, AoE taunts, like, just 5 of them.
Yep.
Draws them over to an instant death area.
That was so awesome, and yet I was so terrified for Suika because she's low to the ground.
I'm memeing here to make the point that one of the things about this show that I think gets at some underlying psychological stuff is that while the characters themselves might not be super deep in Dr. Stone, some of them have more depth than others, is what I'm saying, is that they all contributed in a meaningful way to the progression of the story,
right?
In a way that no one else necessarily could have done to the extent that they did it.
Yep.
And in that, we get to see them have wonder not just about the result, but about the fact that they were instrumental in bringing about the result in combination with, say, Senku's knowledge or Chrome's inspiration or Kohaku's strength. There's these things that instigated the idea to where people could meaningfully contribute. But the characters themselves, like Kazuki, for instance, found purpose in the contribution.
Right.
And that's something that I don't really see happening as much in the shonen power of friendship reliant anime out there.
Right, because most of the time when I see stuff like that, and sometimes it's, a lot of times it's done really well, right? There's a lot of examples, so of course there'd be a lot of good ones. But
totally,
at least with my maybe kind of jaded perspective on it, a lot of them seem to be where it's revolving around, say, the main character or something like that, where it's revolving around a person, and people can fail, people can disappoint you, and they do, right? But when it's something that is not tied to a person, when it's an idea, an idea is bulletproof. You can have the notion of, say, science and beauty and all of this stuff. Oh God, what's happening in chat?
Just keep going. Just General C. Patton's funny comment.
And that can be something that is untouchable, right? Even if, like when Senku mentioned to Tsukasa, hey, even if you kill me, someone else will do what I do.
Right.
They might not be as good as at it as me. They might not have all the knowledge of the old world, but you can't stop humanity.
Yeah,
right?
There's always going to be chromes out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like Suika, for instance, getting the glasses, right? Did Suika need the glasses? Was Suika going to be doing something with her eyesight that would be some crazy thing for humanity that they wouldn't be able to otherwise do? Not really. Now, she's been able to help in a lot of little ways because of that, but it wasn't like they needed her to navigate some crazy maze and pick up a needle out of a haystack or something like that, right? She didn't need perfect eyesight in that sense. Now, I think it might have actually been because Kinro needed better eyesight, but point is, but then she's able to then just see the beauty of the world around her, right? In ways that she hadn't been able to before.
Yeah.
This whole show is about helping us and the characters within see the beauty of the world around them in ways that we might not have been able to before.
Yeah, a lot of the struggles and the successes in the story tie back to the appreciation that the creator and apparently creators have for not just science of this, but just this whole experience of life and what it is. So we talked about a lot of the ways in which the characters kind of in some ways either react or proactively go through the instances of the story with the struggles that they overcome, the achievements that they accomplish, the milestones that they hit, and then go on to the next one. But the thing that I feel like needs to be addressed, because it was hard not to make some kind of joke regarding it in the title of this podcast, is the idea of the power of friendship. And this is something that is constantly done in anime and it has different, I would say, iterations and executions of it.
Sure, different flavors.
Yeah, different flavors. It doesn't mean necessarily just one thing. Like, there's probably the more popular definitions of it here. But one of the things that Dr. Stone does quite well is the whole act of bringing this wondrous, clever, creative stuff of science into the equation here. Senku makes friends.
Yep.
That's just the simplest way to put it. The ramen is a perfect example of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you, AK Games, for mentioning this. I totally forgot. Senku made Suika glasses without even knowing about Kinro's condition.
Right, because Kinro wouldn't have shared it.
Right, Kinro didn't share it. He was too proud about that, and he ended up using Suika's melon mask
to defeat
in the fight. Yeah. The fact that their prescriptions were very similar was convenient, but whatever. But the idea,
I mean, nearsighted.
Exactly.
It's just minor degrees after a certain point.
Right. And that just again goes to show the whole idea that it's not just about, yes, they need to fend off Tsukasa and everything. The katanas were awesome. I loved the katanas. That was great, right? But even though I joked about it or mentioned it, no, it would not have been satisfying to, see that be the whole focus of what they used science for.
Right. So with this power of friendship angle, though, with this, where the actual accomplishments in the scientific angle end up building relationships for Senku here, and with the other characters as well, one of the things that I would say just surprised me over and over and over again throughout the show was how much oftentimes you could look at it as Senku trying to be like, I'm going to build myself a little kingdom here.
Right.
But when you actually looked at what he was doing, the reasons for it were primarily about building those friendships there.
Yep.
Asagiri Gen.
Oh my god.
This is probably one of the characters that just surprised me so much by the end of the show, how much I was like, okay, he's my top 3 characters for sure. Not even close to being debated. Like, maybe I don't know. He's top 3 for sure. I haven't figured out the order.
In my mind, it's Senku, Gen, and Byakuya. Those are the top 3. The order, I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not sure.
But
But with Asagiri Gen, they did 2 things. They did the intentional efforts of Senku building the relationship between him. But they also had the unintentional aspects of Senku's efforts building the relationship with Asagiri Gen.
Yep.
And we got to see this in multiple ways, but this shows in some ways the template for how this show handles its character relationships, which I have to say, the fact that these characters have genuine, built, established, shown in actual footage relationships, and there's actually this many characters, it does my heart some good.
Oh man,
to say the least.
There are so many shows where, and just stories in general, where the reason you're supposed to think that these characters have a relationship is that because of the story, they've been forced to spend time together. Because they're just sort of doing the same thing at the same times in the same locations. Yeah. But it's not actually because they spend any of that time bonding, really. Or at least that's not the focus of the story in any way.
Right. In fact, one of the scenes that we lauded for just thank you for giving us those moments there, we misinterpreted to the point where we thought there was some kind of romantic thing going on, because we were like, oh my god, they're actually letting these characters just talk.
Right. Yeah.
Together and stuff like that. But it was still one of my favorite scenes in the whole dang show.
Oh yeah, it was great. Yeah. Also, since we're on the topic of Gen, let's just go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, we had some, fun interpretations of Senku's early behavior. But when we saw Asagiri Gen in the opening, right? What were some of your thoughts and presuppositions about him based on his character design?
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, mine were way off.
Yep. I think that was intentional.
Oh, yeah, I think so, too.
I think it was something where the show was trying to make you suspicious, specifically. Like,
Yep.
Like everything about the character was one that they were trying to basically be like, yeah, you should be a little bit suspicious of this character. Well, yeah, because of his function, because of his skills, and not because of who he is, though.
Right. And also, the whole idea of you should be suspicious of this character, that makes it even more important that Senku actually bonded with him. Because if it's someone like Yuzuriha or Taiju, yeah, okay, he has previous, connection with them. But even like, say, Chrome and Kohaku, right? There's nothing about Chrome and Kohaku that would make you not want to be friendly with them. Kohaku has a bit of a temper sometimes, but not really. They're both, they're both just adorable people, right? But with Asagiri again, right? It's like there were some points where it's like, whoa, hold on now, Senku.
Right.
Are you sure you should trust this guy?
Yeah.
Right? And that's what makes it worth it that it actually happens, that they get to that point of connection, because it wasn't without risks, right? There was absolutely the chance that, say, Senku could have been a totally different person than Asagiri again originally thought, or, what we were more thinking, that what if Asagiri again is actually just a really bad dude, and no, Senku, you should not, be alone with him or trust him or anything like that, right?
Yep.
That could be really bad.
Yeah.
But because, that risk was taken, everything turned out way, way better.
You could say Senku experimented a little and, used a little bit of critical thinking. Tested the waters.
Tested some hypotheses.
Yeah.
Yep.
And his theory, was formed into something that became, a fact.
And this ended up...
Asagiri again is one of the best boys.
Oh, yeah. And this ends up being shown again, because if it happens just once, right, that could be a coincidence, right?
Sure.
You don't have a scientific law established just because something happens one time. That's, correlation, not necessarily causation, right?
Yep.
And I'm talking from like the meta perspective of the writer creating this story, right? Was Asagiri again and Senku a mistake? Definitely say no. And one of the reasons why I can say that with confidence, beyond just how well the author does it, is Magma later.
Yeah.
When we get that bit with Magma and Senku, that's
I was going to bring that up.
Again, where Senku is absolutely doing stuff where it's like, goes beyond, and it's like, dude, no, you are kind of being stupid here. You are gambling the fate of the human race. Not in absolute sense, but pretty close. Especially since Chrome went in there with him on the fact that this Magma guy isn't just pissed, that is a lot of faith that you're putting in this guy, and you have absolutely no evidence to back it up.
Right.
None.
Yeah.
Right? What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it would have been maybe it was a bad call, Maybe Senku wouldn't even have done it. The Senku now is different potentially from the Senku back then. Like he
does actually evidence with it working with other people though. So
like
maybe Senku wasn't actually as worried about it as
right, exactly.
Thought.
But if Asagiri again hadn't happened, right? I don't know if Senku would have necessarily done that.
Oh, I think he would have. It's just something where you don't need to look at it with that kind of retrospect. Basically, just know that that's consistent. It's the same energy that brought the two of them into the dynamic where he would end up being friends with them.
Which is just, it's wonderful. And the fact that that's something that, even if it didn't necessarily happen because of the village, it was something that was definitely fostered within the village. I think that's wonderful. Because with Taiju and Yuzuriha, because it's characters where it's a pre-established relationship, there's a lot of benefits to that. There are a lot of things that are different because of that. And one of them is that you can't see them actually forming those bonds and seeing how the characters go about doing that, how comfortable they are in those situations and whatnot.
Yeah, you literally have to do backstory.
Right.
And otherwise there's no way of doing it. Otherwise you do what's even worse than backstory, because in some ways backstory is not actually a good thing to overly rely on, is you have them talk about it. Just specifically, so when we bonded, back then. So instead of showing you the backstory, they tell you the backstory, which is that's dangerous. So we have, over the course of this show, multiple friendships and relationships that Senku builds through the power of friendship, basically because of his
passion for science, using and taking their wonder with regards to this, and yes, using it to its fullest benefit.
Yep.
But not selfishly. Like, this is one of the things that I think contradicted so hard my original suppositions regarding Senku. Is I was thinking about the concept of humanity's survival. I was forgetting about the idea that because this is an anime, I'm never in doubt about whether or not it's going to work out. This is probably one of the weirdest meta things to break with regards to when you're watching a story that you know is going to have a happy ending, just in general. You can kind of then assume that accidentally that the characters then know everything has to work out.
Sure. Yeah.
So when a character's catchphrase is "I'm 10 billion% certain about XYZ," wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Don't confuse.
Don't just throw that around. Like that. I'm glad you brought that up because that was something that when the show started and I didn't have a good grasp on who exactly Senku was at the beginning. That phrase. I didn't like that phrase.
I didn't like it either.
I did not like that phrase.
Nope.
Because that communicated to me overconfidence to the point of extreme arrogance, it seemed. Right? Where it's like, yes, I'm so awesome. I know for a fact there is no chance whatsoever that I could ever be wrong. Right? Over the course of the story, as we see more about who Senku really is and stuff, that takes on a different meaning.
It does.
There are the times when he's actually saying from a literal sense, I am 10 billion% certain because this is the laws of science. This is how this works.
Right.
But then there's the times where he's saying it, and quite frankly, there's no way that he could, from a technical perspective, actually be 10 billion% sure unless he's tapping into belief. That basically he's saying, no, I am 10 billion% sure. I 10 billion% believe in you. Right? That's awesome. That is really fucking awesome. Like how many of us would just love to have someone that believed in us to that level? That would almost be like a lot of pressure. But like that's,
it might even be realistic, but
sure, yes,
who cares?
Yes, definitely, right?
We're watching anime. He's got leek hair, like who the hell cares if it's not very realistic, right? Let's do it. Yeah. And that 10 billion% assuredness, that's just more power of friendship. Awesome right there. Yeah. Also, one of the other things that's I would say kind of apparent over the course of the show that you do see is that Senku, when he makes mistakes, it's one of those things where you quickly see any kind of facade of, what would that be, like the chunibyo, the what's the whole thing of where you're like, I'm so much cooler than I actually am. That's what Ramiz is talking about with Okabe. Is kind of a similar thing there. What's that called?
I believe Chunibyo.
Yeah. What's the I'm so cool and everything is awesome.
It's the using the force to open automatic doors.
That is inherently something that I would say is a little bit selfish. But I am going to draw the distance here between that and what Senku does. Senku never does that when he is alone. Senku never does that after he's failed at something. When he fails at something and he screws up, he quickly takes responsibility for it and actively goes for solving the thing as the way it works, and goes, we just got unlucky, but that's okay. We'll figure this out. It's going to be okay. He doesn't try to basically distance himself from the actual thing there. He's getting involved in it. So a character that shows what could be viewed as some kind of pride or false bravado specifically for a thing, you kind of go, okay, that shows maybe something about the character that I'm not
as much of a fan of.
Not as much of a fan of. But when it's more intimate, when it's more, something for this, for maybe like the one person in front of him, Like he's actually like pretty involved and direct with it. So
and that's again one of the reasons why Gen just works so well. Like not even just being a good character, but as far as like the role that he plays and how he fits into the story of the village and everything, it's really, really good. Because one, he's the only other person in the village that is from the old world, right? Other than Senku, right? So there's a connection point there. It makes sense that he would see these sides of Senku because when Senku is struggling with bringing the old world back to here, he can actually commiserate, right?
Yep.
Even if he doesn't understand how it's going to happen, he knows what Senku's the vision that Senku has, right?
Yep.
Then there's also the idea that he is a mentalist. So he pays attention to these kinds of things, right? And that
he's
Senku,
better at it than Senku is.
Oh, yeah.
Senku
definitely.
might be really smart.
Yep.
But this is his area of expertise.
Right. And because Senku, by himself, he may be really smart, but also, unlike what a lot of anime do, just because you are really smart in an area doesn't mean you're really smart in every area. One of the things that frustrates me so much is when, because someone is really smart with like regards to being able to play chess really good, or
it doesn't make them wise,
or like a scientist or whatever, that does not make them wise. So but then they'll be like, yes, because I'm a total science nerd and I'm really smart, that also means that I'm a great people person. I can tell what you're thinking just by looking at you.
Right.
That's not what I've personally experienced with smart people in the real world. There are people like that, but they usually aren't the same person. Right? So having that split up where then, Asagiri can be that person, right? And then Senku is the science dude, right? It can be this wonderful way to get introspection on Senku as a character as well, because, he's going to be focusing on the science of things. But what about the stuff beyond the science things? That's what the audience, that is what the audience is in a lot of ways more interested in, even though the science stuff is what's important for the plot. Right? Because that helps us get to know Senku as a person. And so Asagiri again does a great job of that, and then it also helps us get to know him more as well.
And that's just another reason why Asagiri again is such a beloved character by us.
Absolutely incredible.
Is one of the characters that a lot of really key character moments hinge upon. And yes, the video game max stats things that people have constantly told me about, where it's like each character is a video game stat maxed. I like that in a simplistic sense. It starts to break down after you go through a few characters, but the idea that we have a character who is trying to be the leader and is the maxed out int stat, getting into moments where they're not a perfect leader, where they're trying to do these little things and stuff and it doesn't work, and you have the character who's the max observer character, facial expressions kind of person go, all right, I saw that. It allows us to have a fun thing where our third person perspective, most of the time omniscient story, it gets to go a little bit inside the head of the biggest brained boy in Dr. Stone.
And also that's again something that I feel like often isn't done as much in anime, and when it is, it's really noticeable that they're actively trying to do that, because it starts to it's the Death Note monologues, right? Where the person's like, all right, because of this, I can analyze this and figure out this and blah, 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 and da-da-da-da. And ABC 1, 2, 3, Sherlock Holmes, I'm awesome, right? That's not usually how people think, Like, hey, if I find somebody where that's actually their thought process for things,
it's not that people don't think like that, because I've thought like that. It's that you're not usually very accurate, at all.
Yes,
like the amount of times when you're actually right is just so low.
If you get slightly wrong on like one of those things earlier, then you're just completely off.
How many times have we been like that when we had a theory for a show, guys?
That is a great explanation, on literally recorded and everything on display for you, of why that doesn't work, because inevitably at some point.
And the reason why we're drawing the attention there also is because it has worked.
Right.
It doesn't seem crazy to say that. You're like, duh.
Right. People wouldn't try it if it never worked.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
Yeah, there's that as well. Going to kind of the way the show ends with, sorry, this isn't the end of the show. Sorry. First season.
Right.
With the way the first season ends, we, come upon the end of a wonderful, wonderful roadmap being completed, and we get to see their work, finally realized. I loved the little moment of
baited confession.
Yeah, we need 2 also.
Oh, yeah, just right. Yeah, the thing of, I was wondering when you were going to tell them that. It's like, well,
but yes, baited confession as well.
God,
I
love how this show handles that side of things, because it's totally not the focus. We got to do science stuff and things like that, right? And there's reasons for it not to be the focus, because they're in a world where science and post-apocalyptic and everything like that. So our world, because otherwise in a normal high school setting, what are you really thinking about? Grades and
and
the finer things in life. Right. Yeah. Like that. That's basically what it boils down to a lot of the time.
Totally.
So, but when it is brought up in this show, because the characters have that right amount of goofy, but also like earnest and all of that stuff, and you really do enjoy these characters.
Yep.
I'm rooting for it to happen, because I know that it could happen and still not be not take over the story,
Totally.
But then at the same time knowing that it probably won't. Let's be real. This is a shonen. We're not actually going to get love confessions, because this isn't of the romance subgenre, right? So,
Yeah. And then with the ending tying things back together with regards to the past, having there be the final moment of wonder of we are on a journey, and the music being something where we're all in this journey together. I feel like there's been enough anime to last a lifetime with any kind of fantastical element where the lack of positive transcendent themes is just killer.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about all the, because maybe this is something where it's weirdly topical in that regard, how kind of depressing just things can be at times. But I felt like the fact that Dr. Stone went so completely the opposite route with it, to the point where I'm like laughing about the idea of the Tsukasa conflict being something that we're supposed to be worried about in some
that's
ways.
An afterthought. We'll figure it out. We've got some good plans in place, but we don't need to worry about that.
What? Yeah. No. But having these quiet, like, intimate moments where in some ways the themes go so broad in scope, and yet all the moments feel so deeply personal. I felt like the season ended so so perfectly that I now want to go back and rewatch the show to kind of see how much actually the themes were established early on. Because this is probably the thing that I couldn't tell you how to do properly. I don't have that capacity within me, but I love being able to observe it in stories when it's done. Is setting up your themes nice and early in the story, establishing them, and giving people, in some ways, a good expectation of where your show is, your story or whatever is going to go. And yet this show had one of the weirder starts with regards to that. It wasn't the same show in the beginning. And yet it wasn't that long, like you're saying, episode 4, where they very quickly did give us a good deposit of specifically what the show was going to be about thematically. And they carried that through to make the joke infinity and beyond by the end of the first season. So, yeah. It's really good.
Some people were mentioning the whole bit of Senku giving up after the bamboo didn't work for the vacuum tube. And yeah, that was wonderful. Like
that was perfect. Yeah,
because there are not necessarily recently, but like I want to say like 5 to 10 years ago to like 15 years ago, it felt like there were a lot of stories that were coming out that were the sort of, here's the hyper competent smart guy that's also a complete asshole, but because he's just that good and everyone wants to, no, I'll not get that crude with it, but he can basically do whatever he wants, and he's still awesome, right?
Yep.
The Houses, the Big Bang Theories, the Sherlocks, all of those kinds of things, right? And this show could have been that, right? It could have been.
In fact, we might have been worried that it was going to be that.
Right. I was a little bit worried that it was going to be that, right?
Yep.
I am so thankful that it wasn't that. And one of the things that is really important that sometimes it gets kind of played with in those other stories I mentioned is the idea of the hyper-competent person occasionally, mind-blowingly, being wrong about something. Oh, God, we can't have that. But even then, when they are wrong about the thing, I don't know, it ends up feeling lackluster. Like I don't believe it, you know? Or like in the case of, say, House, for instance, it's a joke. It's you're going to be wrong for 44 minutes until we get to 45 minutes, and then you're going to be right, and haha, yeah, suck my dick. I was like, I'm just that awesome, right?
Yeah.
That story, trope, style, whatever, was tried. It's its thing. It doesn't, for what it's worth, those can be fun. Yep. But no, just like science, just like humanity, we have iteratively improved on that. That doesn't really have a place anymore.
Well, I think it has a place, but I think what you're getting at here to help translate
is better.
Well, no, I'm going to try and help translate a little bit what you're getting at here, was that the idea of what made us look beyond ourselves at the environment, at the world, at science, at humanity with wonder doesn't jive well if the main character was that trope that you're talking about. By the main character being one that's actually very giving, one that is, yes, extremely competent, but is using it in the service of others almost entirely. There was no point, I think, where Senku's scientific advancement or improvement or accomplishment was something that was solely for him specifically, or even something that he was the primary recipient of. I think back on the ramen, and I think back on that as like, was that just like the obligatory let's have food look really good in the anime part that every anime must have, guys?
And
it's a conspiracy. It's actually like a thing.
We want it to be in every
and we
anime.
Want it to be a thing. But we don't see Senku then immediately being the one where he's like, yeah, and I'm going to enjoy this ramen.
Yeah, he didn't even like this stuff. He's like, oh God, I can't stomach that stuff. Like
this is something that for us, that's not going to mean much because we've had the real thing.
Right.
But for everyone else, it was, it was so huge for them.
Yep.
So, yeah. No, Lunar, there is something going on where the audio is a little bit low. I don't know exactly why that is. We've had this issue before a couple times, but everything looks like it's coming through just fine on our end. So, sorry about that. It's kind of funny how many Sherlock Holmes adaptations make him an arrogant ass when he's not really much like that in the originals. Perils of tons of adaptations, I suppose. Yes, that is a thing for sure, but it is, I would say, something of a product of where if you have a Sherlock Holmes, you're required to have a Watson. Think about Chrome, though. How much of a comparison can you really make between Senku and Chrome and Sherlock and Watson?
If anything, Kohaku's more of the Watson.
I still don't even think there is a Watson.
Right.
I don't think there is one at all.
That's what I think is so wonderful about it, is that there's sort of multiple angles for it, right? Or not multiple angles, multiple depths for it. Because sometimes Senku has to explain stuff to Chrome. Sometimes Senku has to explain stuff to Asagiri again.
Sure, yeah.
Rarely does he try and explain things to Kohaku because, that's not where her head's at. But But the point is, and sometimes the other characters will have to explain things to each other, right?
Yep.
But it's never something where it's all right, I know you're a complete and total idiot, but let me just lay out the facts.
Elementary,
right?
My dear Watson.
Right.
See, this is probably one of the things where, thinking back on the show, there are a lot of moments where Senku was very much like, yeah, isn't that crazy? But he's not going like, look at you stupid apes, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like maybe this is just something small. Mm-hmm. And what's the opposite of like a nitpick, but it's like a small, like positive, you know?
Sure.
What would that be? We're kind of doing the equivalent of that here. It's basically like this little thing meant a lot to us.
Right.
Because of the fact that it was there.
Yeah.
He actually did that at literal apes, though.
Well, yes. With literal apes, there you go. But, yeah.
Right. Well, he wasn't doing this for apes. So.
It's true.
He was doing this for the survival of humanity.
Even though
the planet and the animals on it are doing just fine without people.
Even though Chrome does call Kohaku a gorilla sometimes, no.
I think what it is specifically is that Senku is a character that brings us into a state to where we are excited and enamored with what science and humanity together is capable of. And yet there were so many instances where we thought the show was going to focus things on how amazing Senku is, when actually it was never about Senku.
Right.
If that makes sense.
He wasn't the one that, thanks for bringing this back up, Ramis. Senku wasn't the one that made the hydroelectric water wheel.
Yep.
He didn't even think about it, right? Like, Chrome just was like, oh, hold on a second, you know, and then him and Katsuki disappeared for several days, and then there you go.
Yep.
Right? And by the way, as far as like inventions that are probably like the coolest, you know, like that. The phone is very cool. Don't get me wrong. Right. The sulfa drug, very cool. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
Katana's also very cool.
Very cool.
But setting it up so that, not just so that we can make electricity, but that we have constant electricity. What? Like, that's the point where you should just like send a request for surrender to Tsukasa right now. It's like, it's okay. It's fine. You can join. You're too late. You know.
Right.
We've reached critical mass at this point. Like, it's all we're chugging away, and you're not going to stop us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that as an anime, but as an anime that has a positive vibe to it, and also I would say more hopeful themes in general, it was one that really did its set out goal, like really did a good job of achieving its set out goal. If I'm doing, or Jacob and I are doing any level of a good job of analyzing that, I just have to give it props for that. I have to give it props for that.
And that's a great point. The best thing that we can do in these situations is kind of the best thing that Senku can do.
Yeah.
Bring a little bit of insight maybe, and bring passion, so that hopefully we can help stoke the flames of passion in everybody watching our stuff.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. And I mean, like, we've got season 2 confirmed. So this instead of this hype train, let's call it this science train, I guess.
Sure.
This wonder train has no brakes. We're still going strong. And I love it. Yeah, the passion of learning. There you go. Any predictions for Stone Wars? So, in some ways, I feel like it won't last the 2 cours if they go for another 2 cour season.
That the war will just be like maybe the first cour or something.
I think it'll be just the first cour.
Yeah, I can see that.
I literally think that, if anything, there's going to be a lot of stuff that will accelerate things to a conclusion, but I don't think the conclusion will be at the end of the season, or it will be after the season. I fully expect some ridiculous advancements to the point of computers, like maybe like near the end of the season.
I mean, they've got like batteries and stuff now, like mobile batteries and things, so I would not be surprised. But yes, that is, I I am so happy that Eizouken won the poll for the replacement because
so
it's perfect.
It's the
perfect.
Actual best replacement for Dr. Stone.
It is the best replacement because it's passion. It's a bit of explanation of how things work and whatnot to help stoke the flames of passion and whatnot. But then taken to the specific thing that we're partaking here. Like, it might be science that lets us, stream anime and make anime and things like that, right? But now we get to see the passion and the know-how behind making anime.
Oh, Shai, that's hilarious. Someone discussing this on like the first chapter. I really like the concept, but not really the characters. The protagonist seems fine, but the smart kid seems like he will be annoying by I'm blank % sure this would happen whenever anything happens. This is only the first chapter, so hopefully the characters will grow on me.
Oh, wow, that's right. Taiju was the perspective character at the beginning, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. A cool detail about the water wheel was when Chrome thought about it, instead of a light bulb representing the idea, it was only the filament of that one chapter.
Oh.
Wait, that sentence didn't make sense.
Because, so when they did the light bulb moment, technically it wasn't an actual light bulb because they didn't have glass or whatever at the time. So it was just the filament that they ran the electricity through, and that's what made the light. Yeah. So when he had his light bulb moment, it was the first light bulb that he saw that didn't actually have the bulb. It was just the filament lighting up.
Oh my gosh, that's fun.
That's awesome.
That's cool. That's true. Oh my gosh. Wow. Thanks to the internet age, you can do this with any manga or anime that came out in the last few years. Going through episode discussions with hindsight is hilarious at times. And to be fair, this is one of the things that I think is kind of nice if you kind of take with that the grain of salt, that it's like, oh, so then like it makes sense then how someone watching week to week might have, come to, conclusions. Like, maybe have a little bit of grace with people as they,
exactly. I will not say that we were always right by any stretch.
No.
I will not say that all our theories are good.
No.
But I will say that there is a reason for those theories. Even if the reasons for those theories are not always very good.
Yeah, they're pretty weak and pretty dumb.
And sometimes there can be great reasons for a theory that is just flat out wrong.
Oh, yeah. By the way, season 2 of The Promised Neverland in January 2021 as well. Wait, so both of those are getting their sequel season?
That's going to be interesting.
In winter of 2021? Wow. Oh wait, 2021. Right. I keep forgetting it's 2020.
Right.
My brain is like, no, 2020 isn't a thing. It's
every day lasts a week, and every
Crimson,
month
the whole
lasts
thing,
just a week.
Yep. Oh my god. Ugh. Okay.
Haikyuu
the shows they're following are kind of piling up. They can't auto watch every sequel that comes out. Yeah.
Definitely. Kaguya was an example of that.
Kaguya was an example of that. Yep.
Because amazing show, but the list of things that we would auto follow would just keep going.
It would just keep getting larger and larger.
Yep.
Caleb, we're over halfway through 2020. You can't escape forever. I mean, I can social distance really well. I just say that. I had lots of practice long before it became mandatory. Like, I'll just say,
this whole channel has kind of been a practicing.
As a very hardcore sit at my computer, watch, lame TV shows kind of person, I was,
Hold up a minute.
No. That was my practice time.
No.
Yeah.
I know.
Now I watch awesome.
No. Yes, definitely. But one of the things you have to remember, before the channel.
Right. Oh, yeah, I wasn't really as much into anime.
He wasn't as much into anime.
That's true.
I had to fight tooth and nail to get him to watch certain shows.
I liked anime for like 2 or 3 years before.
No, I know.
Because I'd watched, a few not mainstream things.
Well, okay, here's the question. is you saying watching a bunch of lame shows, is that what you were thinking about the shows back then, or now realizing those shows were kind of lame?
No. It's me like in the moment being like, my existence is kind of miserable, and I'm just kind of watching these things to distract myself so I don't have to think about the fact that my existence is miserable.
I see. I definitely sympathize. Yeah. But then, damn it, you should have been a lot easier on me with getting those reactions, or not reactions. Reaction. Well, I mean, it would have been. For
in some ways, you were treating me like your own reaction channel.
That
and
it's
like,
so true.
Hey, watch this thing, damn it!
You guys would not even believe, because it was something where I was wanting to have like the discussions that we have about these shows and stuff, but I didn't have anyone to talk to about it.
Yeah,
it was crazy. Like,
wait, when is the 24-hour JoJo analysis stream?
We're not doing any more of those. Like.
Wait, Jacob, why'd you say that? Now they're going to assume that we did a 24-hour JoJo analysis stream.
We haven't released any.
Oh my god. What have you done? No, we did a 24-hour Ruby discussion because I was crazy and thought that'd be fun. But we are completely off topic right now.
Yeah,
from what we originally set up.
But the power of wonder. Stories can. Okay, so here's my last.
Back to Dr. Stone.
Back to Dr. Stone.
Yeah.
Why do we enjoy stories, right? Like for me, even though it changes based on what mood I'm in and things like that, it all comes down to a kind of escapism, right? You know, where it's wanting to leave this world that we're in or whatever, and from the comfort of my living room or something, read a book, watch a show, where I go someplace else.
Yep.
Even if it's in our own world, right? Even if it's some slice of life, whatever, or something like that, where I get to then go into the lives of different characters, go into a world of magic, things like that, right? And Dr. Stone hits that so well. Because, one, it is still our world, even though it's going to a different one. But then all the things that it does that induce that sense of wonder about the world that they're in, which is very easy to do because of this post-apocalyptic setting that, shines the focus on it just perfectly.
Yep.
It all comes back to our world, right? Like, because when I think about like my favorite stories, it would all like that went into other worlds or even in our own worlds or whatever that dealt with amazing characters. It was because it would make me bring something out of that into my own life that would give me fresh perspective on how I interacted with people or how I thought about things or whatever, right? And with Dr. Stone, it's something where it's like, all right, this amazing, awesome world that you get to go, in escapism to and just disappear there for a while from the comfort of your home. Well, guess what? That's all around you, even in the comfort of your own home. In fact, the fact that you're able to do this
from the comfort
of your own home is all thanks to just how awesome your world is.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
Like that. All right. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Like,
well said. Like that's just Dr. Stone in a nutshell.
Yep.
So, it's not done. It's going to keep going. I'm looking forward to watching more of it. And that's what we wanted to talk about. So, now off topic. No, we have not read or watched Bakuman. It is a show that keeps nearly coming up on polls over and over again. So we're aware of it. Don't worry about that.
I feel like that one for me is kind of in that Space Brothers area where it's like really good, really long. Very, very interested in watching it, but it's really long.
Bakuman is not that long.
It's a 1.5 year commitment,
Yeah, it's not that long. Like Monster, that's Monster's length.
Right, yeah. No, see, the thing is that because JoJo's is coming to a close, it's like our whole perspective on like what is a long show really, is like starting to change. I feel like.
Yeah, I think that's important though.
Yes.
We're going to experience the breadth of what anime has to provide us.
Yep.
Then, we need to open your mind.
You must open your brain to the possibilities.
Yes, indeed. When you think about Dr. Stone, there's no incredible plot and not too much depth in its characters. You could say it's very simple, but it is in that simplicity that it's able to really shine, and I love it.
Yep.
Oh, that's sweet, yeah.
Simplicity is powerful. Like, Oh man.
What Lunar is a wonderful sports anime with wonderful characters and great character interactions?
Baby Steps.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, of course. Yeah. You've been chilling that a lot recently. What happened with Caleb's eyes there? Well, see, I've been practicing my Ahegao face for my OnlyFans. That's going to be made at some point because there's the studio.
Hit the ground running with
there's the studio that we've got, but now there's the studio.
Soundproofed and everything, and cleaned regularly.
Yep. We're gonna have like drainage spots, for all the excess.
We're giving
fluids.
them God. We shouldn't fuel these fires.
I mean, but Jacob, I didn't start the fire. It's
been Mesker
burning since the world was turning.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I finished watching Hunter x Hunter recently, and your reactions to it are great, especially as 131 and 135. My favorite character is also Gon and Kill's relationship.
Gon and Kill's relationship is just great.
Yeah. Oh, Haikyuu manga ends this week, bros. Godspeed, Haikyuu, one of the best sports series of all time. Wow. Damn. Wow, that's crazy. You two alone in a soundproof studio working on Caleb's Ahegao No. So what it was someone Googled Ahegao and was just asking me, I heard this on some online forum, and I was like, what is Ahegao? And they Googled it, and all they saw was a bunch of images of the face, and I was like, no, don't do any more. Just don't do that.
I thought you were saying that they were like, can you show me some examples?
No, that was just why I brought it up.
Okay, I was gonna say, are you actually practicing your Ahegao face?
No, I'm like, I did so you saw a bunch of those faces, basically.
See, by doing that, you keep making them, and they're going to be clipped, and they will get screenshotted.
Yeah, that song's not stuck in your head. You're welcome.
Anyways, yeah.
You don't have to start a fire to leave a pile of kindling. That's true. That's true. Who said soundproof? The neighbors hear everything. Someone was actually saying, I don't remember what it was, but because you've inundated me with domestic girlfriend related stuff, someone I saw like in a comment section of the Dameikano OP, and it was something about like the neighbors freaking out or something like that.
Really?
Is that something related to Dameikano? Is that some kind of meme or something?
Well, there's a point where the dad, because he's so wholesome, thinks that Natsuo was watching porn when he was actually banging Rui. But,
okay.
That's the closest I can think of.
Oh, okay, never mind. All right, never mind.
Yeah.
New emote incoming.
Yeah.
No, see, guys, the new emotes are coming this Thursday and Friday for our new gaming streams that we're having starting up very soon. Yep. Jacob, you're going to be starting
Ori, Will of the Wisps. That's Ori 2.
That's Ori 2. And I will be starting Dark Souls 1 Remastered Edition.
Oh my God.
So there's going to be so many new emote opportunities through these two streams, because we're both starting games that have pretty decent difficulties.
No, Ori 2 apparently is way easier.
Oh, okay.
Also, I actually know how to play those games now, so I won't die 1,300 times.
So you'll die 250 times.
No, under 100 times, for sure. Like 500 deaths were in just one part of the game in Ori 1.
So, guys,
it was because I didn't get the health things that I was supposed to collect, so I had 5 health when I should have had like 10.
So tell me your breadth of guesstimate. Like, what's your guesstimate between this and this? And then I'll just bet that you won't get within that amount.
It's going to be under 100. It's going to be under 100.
Under 100?
Yeah.
Will you have an actual, death counter or something?
Okay, now I'm actually thinking...
You should have one, though.
I really should get one of those set up. Yeah.
And you know what it should be? It should be something where if I get less than 10 times your deaths, I've succeeded.
So are we going to put stakes on this?
No.
Oh, backing out now.
No. On the comparison.
You scared.
No. But I will put stakes on you not making the 100 deaths thing, because I've heard that it was crazy hard for you to go through first Ori.
God,
and yeah, I'm
okay.
I'm interested now.
Okay.
No, I'm already going to die
1,000 times probably. I don't know how many
times.
You
need a chat.
Like, I don't know how many times it's
just watch it go
Dark Souls.
10,462, 10,463.
Caleb, you'll die at least 20 times in the tutorial. Oh, I will put nothing past my capacity to die over and over again in Dark Souls.
Oh, man.
You don't actually die that often in Dark Souls. It's just that the deaths are much more punishing. Oh, right. I heard there's a lot of backtracking that can happen.
Well, and all right, you figured out the formula for like the boss's moveset or whatever, and then you try and get one extra attack in when they're at 10% health just to speed it up, and then bam, you're dead.
Right. Patience is the name of the game.
Yeah.
Caleb, you should try decoding the story as you play. It's pretty amazing. Well, I think stuff like that will just end up happening because I'll be taking the streams pretty slow and casually as far as that whole thing goes as well.
Also,
but, guys, just wanting to make sure you guys are aware, that's the streams we've got going on Thursday and Friday. But we've also got our One Piece dramatic manga readings on Tuesdays. So tomorrow, by the way, all of our streams are at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Right, exactly.
So leave a follow, Twitch Prime. Yep. You know, Bezos has plenty of money he can give us, and
last week
doesn't cost you anything.
Well, we went through volume 50 and nothing really happened then.
Nothing happened really.
Yeah. Nothing at all. So
nothing at all.
Make sure to tune in this week to see
something happen.
Something happen. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Volume 51.
Yep. Yeah. And then of course, cool. And cover's not safe. Good to know. And then of course, podcast Monday. Yep. Storytelling and anime and all that good stuff being talked about.
And then Jacob, you did a thing a while ago.
Yes,
that's on Amazon. I think.
I wrote a book.
It's got some boys' love in it. I think.
Battle Lines. Oh God. Don't listen to all those false expectations being set. It is not actually a BL. The initials are just BL, but Battle Lines is on Amazon and it is awesome. Link is in chat. Yeah.
But yeah, if any of that interests you, we'll see you in the future streams. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time. All right.
I did love writing BL. Yeah. Is there Igao and Battle Lines? No, of course I skipped past all those. Well, Battle Lines uncensored version.
Oh my God, Jacob, we're actually going to have a use for the berries save reminder thing.
Yeah.
The points, the channel points and stuff.
Yep. Quite a bit. Methinks.
Quite a few. Indeed,
okay, so actual stakes. If I get under 100 deaths, should we make a bet on this?
So I think if you get under 100 deaths in a full, total playthrough, whatever that would be there, then I will give you $100.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want
and I give you 100 if I go above. Okay.
Exactly.
Cool. You heard it here first, folks.
You heard it here. Yep. That's gonna happen. So there you go.